yeah, it's definitely geared a bit more towards beginners. So we'll see. You can ask questions after the lesson, and I can try to point you in the direction of maybe some more higher level kind of stuff. Can everyone see this just fine? Okay, well, like, I'll wait a sec. Okay, so this is where the lesson materials are. If you go to our kind of GitHub page, you go to study group, lessons are ggplot. This is where all the lesson materials are. You don't need them because I'm going to be live coding this, but if you aren't that familiar with R, I've provided all of the R code that I'm going to be using right here. And this is the lesson if you want to follow along kind of visually. So I'm just going to start off by going over a bit of like the background here, and then we'll get to some actual coding and looking at some graphs. Okay, so ggplot2. It's an implementation of the grammar of mathematics. I'm still not totally sure what that means, but there have been books written on it, and it's kind of the basic notion that there's a grammar to the composition of you know, graphics components and statistical graphics. And in the way ggplot works is a lot familiar with it. It works kind of in layers. So you can add layers to your plot, right? You can create a bar graph and then add something else over it, and then add something else over it, and then add something else over it. So for those of you who are familiar with some photo like editing programs, it works kind of similarly in that it has layers. So there are different components of like a ggplot plot. So I don't know why they really called this the aesthetics, but I would almost say it's more, you know, the structure. Anyways, so the aesthetics that the ggplots use are the x and y positions, size of the elements, shape of the elements, colors. And in a plot, you'll have like points, lines, line segments, bars, text, etc. So like some of these things can have their own aesthetics. So point shape, point size, line type, line weight. Bars can have like a fill color, outline color. You can set Y minimum or maximum, which is actually really useful. And you can have like label values for everything. You can have X, Y labels, what have you. So those are sort of the components of a ggplot plot. But I just want to show you some kind of crummy like graphs that just the base R can produce, so we can all be really, really disappointed and then get really excited about ggplot. So type in plot cars. Cars is a data set, for those of you who aren't super familiar with R, that's just like, it's just a data set that's in R. So if you're wondering what the heck is cars, where is it coming from, it's just R has it for your pleasure to play around with, I guess. So doesn't look like much here, but yeah, there we go. All right. This does the job, but it's not very pretty, and there's not really much we can do with it. It was pretty easy to make, but it's not a very special looking graph. Another thing we can do is do a histogram of an aspect of cars. So we can do a histogram of the speed of our cars data set. So cars speed, this is a way of subsetting the speed column. Okay, we have a boring histogram. So like, yeah, that's fine, I guess. But ggplot plots are prettier. Here is like a link to ggplot plots when you Google ggplot2 examples and Google images. And as you can see, these are like really, 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 really pretty. So these are the kind of graphs we want to be making, not like this kind of stuff, right? So first, let's investigate the data set that we're gonna kind of use to make some graphs. So I hope you've all installed, who does not have ggplot installed? You all have ggplot installed. That's amazing. Okay, so in that case, we can just do library, ggplot2. And then ggplot2 comes with its own kind of toy data sets, one of which is diamonds. It's huge. It's really, really huge. So I'm just going to look at the structure of diamonds to see kind of what we're going to be working with today. And it shows you here. It has, this actually kind of makes it really, really, really hard to read. Here we go. So it has carat, which is like the weight of the diamond, the cut of the diamond, color of the diamond, clarity, so like measures of quality of the diamond, depth, so that's like, I actually don't know what that is. Anyways, price, and then XYZ, these are like the different dimensions of the diamond indicating its like shape. So we have some information on a bunch of diamonds. And how many diamonds do we have information on? 53,000. So this might be a problem for some of you who have slow computers. If you have a slow computer, please type in the following right now. Type in, no, not these two. Type in this. Oh no, just this. So what this is going to do is it's going to subset the diamonds data set, and if ggplot rendering a graph that's based on 52,000 data points, on my computer it takes maybe like 3 seconds, 4 seconds. On a lot of your computers it might take like a little bit longer, cause your program to crash. I don't know what kind of computers you're working with. So if you do not have a ridiculously fast computer, please type in this and then just substitute diamonds2 for whatever the code I'm using that says diamonds, okay? Just type the 2. If you have a fast computer, don't worry about it. It'll just take a couple seconds for your graphs to render. So is everyone good with that? Okay. So let's get back to actually making some graphs. Let's make our first graph. So ggplot. So now we're going to feed it. The first thing we need to feed it is our data set. So I'm going to use the full data set because lucky me, I have lots of RAM. And then you need to give it the aesthetics. So what the aesthetics are, the main thing and the most necessary aspect of the aesthetics is the X and Y values. What's going to be on your X axis, what's going to be on your Y axis. And there are other things that you can put in there, and we'll go over that later. But for now, we're going to have the cut of the diamond as our X axis, and then we want to see how that relates to the carat, the weight of it, which isn't really an interesting question, but here we are. So let's see what that makes. So it makes a completely blank graph. We actually didn't just make our first ggplot. So we've defined the structure of the graph, but we need to add a layer in order to define what type of graph it is. So for that, we can add a plus sign. And we can, let's make like a point graph. What do you call them? Scatter plot. So to do that, you type geom point. There needs to be a plus sign here. If there's not a plus sign here, or if there is a plus sign at the end of your ggplot syntax, you're going to get some kind of weird error. So let's run this and see what happens. It's going to take a second. Is that really what I wanted to do? No, I actually wanted to do this. Carat as the X and Y as the cut. Actually, I wanted carat and price. Okay, let's do that. That's a more interesting question. So how does the weight of a diamond relate to its price? Wow, there's some really expensive diamonds out there. That's pretty cool. So this is our first plot. We've told it that we want a dot plot, a scatter plot, and that's awesome. So there are lots of options here, right? You can have a bar graph, you can have whatever kind of, you can have a violin plot. And I'll give you some resources on the different syntax needed to create those different plots, but we're gonna play around with some scatter plots for now. So great, we have made our very first scatter plot. One thing I wanna make note of is you can actually save the structure of the graph to a variable and then add layers to it if you don't wanna. I mean, some people do this, some people don't, but it is possible to do something like this. And then say G plus geom point. The reason I'm telling you this is sometimes in other people's code, you might see this sort of thing and you might be confused. So I'm gonna sort of toggle between the two today. It doesn't really matter which way you choose to do it. But you know, if you're playing around a lot or making what you want to make a lot of different variations in the same data set in terms of graphs, then this may be the way to go. So we can add other layers to our first graph. So I was talking about there being layers to ggplot. So let's add a trend line. So we can do G plus geom point, oopsie. Remind me later. Right, plus geom smooth. So geom smooth adds just a good old trend line. You can use different methods. So if you want like a linear trend line, you can do that. But we're just gonna add a good old, here we go. So now we've added a layer to our graph. And we've added a trend line, and as you can see by default, it kind of gives you like this error margin here, which is kind of cool. Another thing we can do is we can facet our graphs. So faceting means dividing a plot into subplots based on like some discrete variable that you have in your data set. So like, let's say we wanted to, let's say there were like 5 colors in our data set. We could facet by that, and then we would have 5 graphs. So what we're gonna do today is facet it by the cut of the diamond. I think, hold on, view. So cut is divided into like ideal, premium, good, very good, and fair. So we're gonna facet our graph by cut. So I guess that's some measure of quality. So we have this, and what we can do is add facet. Yep, thank you. And then here you have to say what you're faceting by. So a lot of you are going to be wondering what this notation here is. I'm not going to explain it right now. I'm going to point you to some resources at the end that are going to that will explain to you exactly what this means. But for now, just type this in, and we'll run it and see what happens. And this is going to take a while. If you, oh, it didn't really take that long at all. So here you see we now have 5 graphs, and we've divided up our data set and our graphs by whether they're fair, good, very good, premium, or ideal. This is just sort of indicating how your faceted graphs are going to be arranged on the screen. So I'll give you guys a cheat sheet. So maybe you don't want them vertically, maybe you want them like side by side or something like that. Like you can do that by changing how you position these little symbols here. Okay, so let's say we don't really want to facet, but we want to color the dots depending on the cut of the diamond. So we don't want different graphs. We just want to color the dots that we have in our graph to see, to get a picture, get better picture of where they fall in terms of carat and price. So let's do that. So we can do. So it's a tilde and a period. That is a very good question. So anyways, we want to do ggplot. So now the structure of our graph is going to change a little bit. Diamonds, AES, X. So we're going to keep X as carat. We're going to keep Y as price. But now we want to see, we want to color our graph, our individual data points by what the cut is, the quality. So we type in color equals cut. You can actually specify the colors. I'm not going to show you how to do that today, but you can actually, like, if you don't like the colors that ggplot gives by default, you can do that. And then we're just going to do our good old geom point. Awesome. And what are we going to get? What did I do? Okay, I can't spell. Okay, so now you see we have something that's divided by, we still have our same old kind of scatter plot, but we have something where the colors are divided up by fair, good, very good, premium, and ideal. And that gives us a little bit of added information. So that's another way you can kind of like show another variable or dimension in your data set rather than faceting and making different graphs. We can also change some of the aesthetic features of the graph. So let's get rid of the color aspect. We're just gonna copy and paste this. Get rid of the color. And now let's say we don't like our black dots. We want something nicer. We want, let's say, some big steel blue dots instead of tiny black dots. So we can type in color equals steel blue. And online there's also resources. There's like a ggplot color cheat sheet. So you can Google that and it gives you like every single color name that ggplot has. And you can like, I actually spend way too much time like deciding on colors for my own graphs when I'm making posters and stuff like that. So there is like a place where you can go to find out, or you could just use, I think it takes hex codes. So, oh, yeah, that's right. There we go. And then we want size equals 4. Let's run this and see what it gives us. Okay, I mean, because there are 52,000 points, this sort of looks like a big blob, but imagine there weren't 52,000 points. This would be like kind of a cool graph. You can see, you can change, let's say we want like 0.5. Let's see if that works. Will it work? It works. So you can sort of play around with the size of your dots. You can do the same thing with like the width of your bar graphs, et cetera, et cetera. Let's say I want pink. I actually really like that. Okay, so you can see that we have the ggplot takes the X and Y like label values from here, from your data frame, right? And here we've put our variable names in all kind of lowercase, but maybe you're submitting this to a journal and you think that looks kind of crummy and you want uppercase like carat and price, and maybe you even want a title. So how do we do that? So we could do G plus G. And again, G is just the same as this. And then we give it our geom point kind of structure. And then we, or rather layer. And then to change the X label, it's just xlab. So carat plus, I tend to put each kind of new layer or new piece of information in a different line, otherwise it gets kind of confusing to read left to right.
Use the last, just do them all at once.
I think there are multiple ways to provide labels to ggplot. So yes, I think you actually can do it that way. This is just how I do it. But there are multiple ways to, yeah, like you're right, there is another way. It's in the old lesson actually. So, I mean, I can show you after class. But this is how I do it, so I'm showing you how I do it. Maybe it's the long way, I don't know. But anyways, if you want to add a title, that one is ggtitle. So what is the title? Diamond price by weight. Because carat with a C is actually a weight. And then let's say we want a theme. So ggplot comes with various themes. This is another thing you can Google and figure out, you know, what kind of theme you want to use. One very common one is just the good old theme, black and white. But you can also maybe try tab completion, right? So you can have a look-see, like theme gray, theme dark, theme classic, and it kind of gives you the information on what's in those themes. But in the theme, you can actually change things like the font that you're using, or the font size, or the color of the background, or whether you have grid lines, or there are a lot of things that you can change with the theme. And I've actually like created my own custom APA style theme. So all I do when I make a graph now is just add my APA style theme that I've made over and over again, so I never have to like reformat it for the journals that I'm submitting to. So that's actually kind of cool. The way you make a theme is literally just, you know, theme, blah, 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 and then give it your kind of ggplot arguments, and you can save it as a variable. So that's actually really a kind of a cool thing that you can do. But we're just gonna go with a theme that's been created for us, which is black and white. And let's run this. See what it looks like. Okay, so definitely looks different. We now have a title, we have carat with a capital C, price with a capital P, and you'll notice that compared to our last graph, everything is now in black and white. We no longer have that gray background, and some journals do kind of require that. So it's sort of a good thing to know how to do. But we've been talking a lot about dot plots. What about a bar plot? Because that's what I usually have to make in my research. So let's find out about how many diamonds are of each type of cut are in the base, and we'll make a bar graph of that. So you can imagine this is pretty easy, because all we're doing is instead of asking for geohm point, we're going to ask for geohm bar. So we're going to do diamonds again. We're going to do AES. We're just giving it cut, because we don't have an X and Y. We just are doing like a bar plot of one variable in this case. Although, of course, you can have two variables in a bar plot. Plus geohm bar. So what this is going to do is give us a count value. There are ways, like you may not want to display a count value in your bar graph. You may want to display an average or the identity of a single number in, you know, a data set or whatever. And there are ways to do that. And I will show you in the cheat sheet at the end. But for now, we're just going to worry about the count. And yeah, this is what we got. This is a bar plot, which is pretty cool. And we can change the color, equals blue. Let's see if that works. Oh, that changed the, so it needs to be like, there needs to be a fill option. You can actually change the, what's it called? The border and the fill of a graph. Anyways, one thing I really wanted to show you guys was how to make interactive plots with ggplot. So yeah. So ggplot keeps all of your figures open, eh? They're all open here in your plots, right? Like if you're using our studio, then they're all open here. So we can go all the way back to the beginning potentially, or we should be able to. This is frozen a bit, but at any rate, you ought to be able to, yeah. I don't know, it's been giving me this, like, a hard time with this. They're just like really big. It'll go away if I keep pressing things, don't worry. Yeah, shh. Okay. If you want to close on, so I think you can use this button, or you can, yeah, so this is remove the current plot. If you want to sweep them all away, then you can use the little broom and that'll clear all plots. You can use this to export a plot. So you can save as an image, you can save as a PDF. The thing I will note here is that it's going to save it in the exact dimensions that you have it open right here, right? So if I don't like this and I want it to be wider, then I need to move it to be wider and export it, save as image. Now, there's another way to save your graphs if you don't like that. And that's sort of the more reproducible way and the way that I would recommend. So each time you open your kind of data analysis, like what I will do is I'll have my statistics and then my bar graphs at the end after I've done my statistics and created summary statistics. And then I will save each bar graph each time. So every single time I open my R file, it is taking my raw data and producing graphs on the fly. And then you can say to your supervisor, like, hey, here's my raw data set. I like did all the analyses in one go and did my plots, and here they are, and I can recreate them anytime you want me to. So the way to save them is after each graph, what you can do is something called ggSave. And then you give it arguments, file name equals, and this will actually, I could say like blah.jpg. So if you say JPEG, like it will turn it into a JPEG. I don't know if there are like other arguments that I need to, oh yeah. You can also specify the width and height. And you can specify it in units, whatever units you want, inches, centimeters. So if you want like 5 inches by, you know what I mean? So I would do, I think 5. I would have to open my old graph to see how I did it before, but you can specify the exact width, and I guess I could look for my old graphs. I'll do that at the end. Anyways, the point is, this is going to save this, oopsie. I keep forgetting it doesn't do that. This is, this is gonna save the latest graph that you've made in your current working directory. I don't even think you need the argument file name, to be honest. I think you can just do ggSave. So I don't know what directory I'm in, but yeah, see, and it will tell you the dimensions, and this is in inches. So I think by default it saves it in inches. So I think you could probably just do like, let's say you wanted width equals like 5.5, height equals, I mean, I don't know. I think that'll work. I don't know if I have to put it in quotes. I'll figure that out later for you guys. Yeah, no, I don't know. Let's not worry about that. Anyways, it definitely saved blah somewhere. So let's look for blah.jpg because I don't know where my working directory is. Yeah, so it saved my graph. And it saved it as a JPEG because I asked it to. And if I type in like PNG, it'll save it as a PNG. So those are the 2 ways you can save your graph, right? It's actually pretty easy. And if you're doing this every time, like on the fly, I do recommend like specifying the width and height, because otherwise it's just gonna like overwrite the last graph you made. And if your window is like this, your graphs are gonna be like overwritten and ugly. So that's sort of how I do it. So yeah, ggSave is a really important one to know on how to save your graphs. You can use ggSave, or you can do export, save as image, preparing to export plot. I wish I hadn't clicked that. And then you can give it the width and height. This is in pixels, not inches. And image format, there's a variety. And so those are your options, basically. So does that make sense? But it does keep all of the, oh, I shouldn't have done that. Anyways, it does keep all of the plots that you've made kind of in your environment until you get rid of them, or like exit RStudio and like don't save your workspace, if that makes sense. So you have to clear them yourself. So they don't go away. You can still save them. But in general, if you're writing a script that you're going to come back to, it's better to do like the ggSave way of doing things. This was our bar plot, our lovely bar plot with kind of terrible looking labels, but that's fine. I'll ignore that for now. And I want to introduce another package. I know this is supposed to be a ggplot, but I want to show you guys something kind of cool. And that is Plotly. So you'll have, who doesn't have Plotly installed? Install Plotly. Okay. So, oh, no. I'm forgetting myself here. It's been a while. Okay. So I'm calling the library Plotly. And Plotly actually can work with ggplot to do really cool things. So let's save this to a P for Plotly. We're going to save our little nice little bar graph here to a variable. Maybe we could have made it prettier, but that's fine. Sorry, I'll actually just so you guys aren't confused. So we called the library Plotly. We saved our bar graph to a variable. And now what we're going to do is we're going to call actually, no, I want to save this to, yeah, okay, whatever, it's fine. Now we're going to call a function from Plotly that will turn this graph into an interactive graph, and you're going to see what I mean, and it's going to be really, really cool, and you're all going to thank me for showing you. So we're going to do, let's say, Plotly graph 1 equals. And then we do ggplotly. So this is the function from the Plotly library that's going to just easily make your graph interactive. And the thing that I like about this is it's so freaking easy. Like it's ridiculously easy. You're literally just you're calling one function and you're going to see what it's going to do, and it's so awesome. Oh, I don't know why I did that. Polygraph. Oh, because I didn't run this. Hold on. Oh, silly me, P. Sorry, so we have our saved graph and we want to turn our ggplotly, our graph into a ggplotly graph, and we're going to save it as Plotly graph 1. So let's run this code. So now we have Plotly graph 1, and shall we see what Plotly graph 1 looks like? Okay, so it looks exactly like our old bar graph. However, when we, okay, I don't know if it, why isn't it doing it here? That's really strange. Let's try the equal then. Oh, I know why. It only shows up top. It shows up in the viewer, not the plots, because it's not really a plot anymore. It's an interactive like object, and you can only save it as like an HTML file. So it's no longer like a JPEG or a PNG or whatever. It's not really the same anymore. So my apologies. I just forgot where to look for it. So no, I did it right. Just forgot where to find it. So it looks just like our old plot graph or bar graph. So you might be thinking, Lindsay, like, why did you show me this? Who cares? But watch this. You can go over each bar graph, and now it's interactive. It will tell you the exact count. And can you imagine if you had this for like a point graph, or, you know what I mean? Like, you could do some really cool things with this, right? So this is an extremely easy way of making a graph interactive, and you can export it and save as web page. And I have done just that. Oopsie, I don't want to open pages. I've done just that up here. And you can embed this in any of your websites and automatically have a super interactive graph. And look at all these features up here, right? You can download the plot. You can zoom in if you like on whatever area you want, which would be really helpful if you have a really complicated scatter plot. Double click to zoom back out. You can reset axes. There are all these compare data on hover, blah, 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 blah. There are like a gazillion options here. You can like do this. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool for like a very, very minimal kind of amount of work, what you can create with ggplot2. And the last thing I think I wanted to show you was just like a really, really lazy way of making graphs in R. So a really quick way of making scatter plots in R, ggplot has kindly given you a function called quickplot or qplot. So here you give it the x, you give it the y, and you give it the data, and that is it. Let me go back to plots here. And there you go. So qplot is like if you're just making a ton of scatter plots for some reason, it's just like a really, really easy way of making quick graphs without having to say, here are the aesthetics and the structure, and here's what I want. I want a geom point graph, blah, 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 blah. If you're really lazy, you can use this method. I actually wonder, let's actually scroll back up and see if we can make this interactive. So we have G. What if we did, if you notice, I'm saving the layer now to G. What if we tried to make G interactive? Let's see what a dot plot looks like when it's interactive. Oh, spinning wheel. See, even my computer's not fast enough for this. There we go. This is gonna be super duper slow. But like you could hover over every single freaking dot and it would tell you exactly like all the information you need about that data point, which is really, 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 really cool and useful. So like I think that's like a really incredible feature that you can use when you combine these two libraries. And there are a lot of ggplot examples here. I also sort of want to point you towards this. I found this recently. It's called the R Graph Gallery. And if it loads, I'll get to show you some really cool graphs, because ggplot2 is not the only graphing package that are you know, that people have created for R. There are actually a lot of other really cool graphing packages out there, and I don't know why this is taking so long. I think it's coming. Any moment now. I'm like fairly certain. It was working before. Anyways, okay, we'll get back to that one. So, now it loads. Great, okay. Anyways, it has really, really beautiful examples of all different kinds of graphs and graph types that you can make in R. And if you click on each of these, it will give you the code and the packages used, and it's actually really incredible. So like, this was made with Plotly, not with ggplot, right? Some of them were probably made with the base plotting functions. Some of them were made with, you know, this was made with ggplot. Look how beautiful that is, et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean, this, I don't even know what this is. It's crazy. So, here are the color names, by the way. That's nice of someone to put them in here, but you can also just Google it, Google image it. So yeah, I think this is a really beautiful, here's some violin plots with ggplot2. You can make, I actually have made like curvilinear scatter plots with like a curvilinear trend line in ggplot recently for like a paper that's going somewhere really important, I hope. And so these are the possibilities really with graphing in R, and not all of them are in ggplot, but a lot of them are. And this is why I like R so much for graphing, because the possibilities are really limitless. Like, this is actually pretty much what we just did. Interactive graph with Plotly. So hold on, let's load this. Go away, go away. Look, this is incredible. So this is a plot that, this is a someone has made these scatter plots, added a trend line, and then used Plotly to make them interactive. And you can look at each point on the graph and see exactly where you are, and get the exact information you need for each one of those data points. That is really, really cool. Oh my goodness, look at this. So I actually really like this website as just sort of a resource just for ideas, to see what's possible, and also it just sort of gives you access to new things. I didn't know about Plotly until I found this website and realized that I can make super easy interactive graphs with just a couple lines of code. The other things here, here's ggplot2 documentation. I don't really read that. Here's a book by Hadley Wickham. This is literally an entire freaking book on ggplot. But what I really recommend is the ggplot2 cheat sheet. So for all of Hadley Wickham's packages, I don't know if you know who he is, but like plier, dplier, all these things, data wrangling, there are cheat sheets for other things, like even R Markdown and stuff like that. Look for these R cheat sheets online, because they are so useful. Every single time I'm writing code in R, I have one of these open, and this data visualization with ggplot cheat sheet basically tells you everything that you can do with ggplot and how to do it, right? So that stats thing, like, that gives you information on how to transform, what statistic you want to plot. It tells you about scales. Here's scale fill manual. This is how you change the colors, right? Scale fill manual, and then values equals C, and then you put it in order of the way you want it to fall out on the bar graph. Like, it gives you so much information, gives you some themes and shows you exactly what those themes are going to look like when you implement them. It tells you pretty much everything. So to answer your question, yeah, you can just do labs, so labels. So you can just do title, X, and Y, or you could just do this. I mean, the reason I do this is because sometimes I don't want a title. Well, I guess you could just leave some of the arguments out. But yeah, I guess those are the two different ways to add labels. You can mess with the legends, et cetera, et cetera. So whatever I didn't teach you today is contained within this cheat sheet. So I definitely hope you use this link in the future going forward in your ggplotting. So that's it. That's all I have for tonight. Does anyone have any questions? Yes.
What's the difference between the arrow and
I think the equal sign does actually assign variables in R, but you shouldn't use it. Just don't do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I'm seeing code that actually uses it.
It can be used. but the way I was taught was just like, don't do it because it gets confusing, right? Because you use the equal sign a lot in R for a lot of other things. So it still, I think, assigns variables, but I would say like best practice is to use the arrow to assign a variable. So just don't question it, just use the arrow. Just that's sort of what I was taught, was just use the arrow. And I do that, and it makes your code easier to read, right? And it'll make your code easier to read for other people because that's sort of the standard. But I believe both are assignment operators, yes.
In your experience, what language do you suggest for manipulating data?
Oh, wow. Let me show you. I have my own cheat sheets. Wow, you guys are getting like a really personal look into the kinds of Malthapalooza. This is slightly embarrassing, but I'm just gonna Google it. Okay, data wrangling in R. Here we go. That was less embarrassing. This is what I recommend. This cheat sheet, dplyr and tidier. I have saved people innumerable amounts of hours of work by using this. So for manipulating data and data frames, this is like, these two packages are like Excel on speed. And this is the cheat sheet that I use. I still, again, reference this because I have a terrible memory and I need to look at it every time. But I use this.